So a little thing that might help some of you guys get into a house quicker, and it's often confused with a first-time homebuyer program. It's called down payment assistance, and boy, does it come in handy. But the common misconception is you have to be a first-time homebuyer to use it, but that's not the truth. It's not the case, and every program is different. So I can't give you specifics because it is a third party who offers it. But point being is, if you are talking to a realtor and that realtor says, hey, let's just get you in with my lender so we can get our ducks in a row, and especially if you're trying to take advantage of down payment assistance, listen to them. I am telling you, listen to them. I am a realtor in the Arizona area. I help hundreds of people. I've lived here my entire life. I've done this at a very high level, and I know what I'm talking about when it comes to purchasing real estate. Talk to a lender sooner than later. But let's dive into how down payment assistance works, how it can benefit you in some scenarios where you might be able to get into a house with little to no money down. And I know that sounds like an infomercial, but I'm dead serious. Imagine getting into a house for $2,000. Is it worth the conversation? Of course. Of course. Let's get into it right now. That's all I got. So what is down payment assistance? It is a third party that gives you money to cover your down payment and potentially money to cover your closing costs. And if you don't know what closing costs are, because maybe you don't, a lot of people don't, it is your lender fees, title fees, various HOA fees, taxes. There's a lot of different line items, but it roughly comes out to 2% give or take of the purchase price of that house. So if you're buying a $400,000 house, then roughly $8,000 depending on how fees fall, but that gives you a baseline. It could change. But so imagine this, a down payment assistance program gives you 5%, and it's a conventional down payment assistance program. And so you can use 3% down. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can go 3% down. So now you have 3% taken from the 5%. So you have 2 more percents, if that's how you say that, that you can use. You can use that 2% to cover your closing costs. Now, when you pull out 5%, typically that interest rate is going to be slightly higher than if you were to take, let's say, 4% from the down payment assistance program. But again, all down payment assistance programs are going to be slightly different. So I don't want to dive into the specifics. The point is, I'm trying to give you a general idea of how this works and what's possible for you. So down payment assistance, a lot of people will use it for just their down payment. And then my job is to say, hey, when we go shop for houses, hey, Mr. Seller, you're going to have to contribute 3% in concessions, which is money that the seller is giving to the buyer to help cover your closing costs for us to make this deal happen. So you're borrowing money from a down payment assistance program, and then we're going to get concessions from the seller to help offset your costs, which I'm telling you, we've done it many times. You can get into a house with very little money down, very little money. The money that you will have to spend is going to be your earnest deposit, which could just be temporarily. Meaning, let's say you're buying a $400,000 house. Once you go under contract, something called earnest money is due. That money is going to be taken out of your account within somewhere between 24 and 72 hours. So they're going to take that money from your bank account. They're going to put it into an escrow account. That earnest money is the money that's at risk if we're ever in breach of contract. That money will be applied to your closing cost or your down payment. So it will be applied to the transaction somehow, some way. But let's say we're using DPA, that's going to cover your down payment. And let's say we get enough concessions from the seller to cover your closing costs. The earnest money that you put into the account will be redispersed to you. So you'll get that money back. So you will need money up front to go into earnest deposit, but you could get that money back. You will also need money to cover an inspection, which will be somewhere between $400 and $500, so depending on the size of the house, which will also come with a termite inspection. You can opt out of that, but I don't recommend doing that. Getting a home inspection is one of the most important parts of buying a house, so I would definitely do that. So make sure you have at least that money in there. So point being is, let's say, hey mom, can I borrow $4,000? You're going to get it back. So when we talk and we get with the lender, we say, hey, we want to use DPA. Then we're going to get concessions from the seller to cover all of your closing costs. And then you could say, hey mom, I'm going to give you this money back because I'm not buying a house that doesn't fit the criteria of which I can't give you this money back. Boom, you just got into a house. It's crazy. And it would shock you how many people are like, I can't buy a house. I know that. Let's talk next year. It would shock you how many of those calls I get. A lot of people are afraid to have the conversation with an agent that knows what they're doing or with a lender that knows what they're doing, that can actually open up doors, understands how the systems work, how leverage works, how a real estate transactions work, and how to get people into homes. Now, obviously, if you have $50,000, $100,000 that you want to put into it, it makes the process significantly easier. But there are ways to get you into a house. I have 3 shopping right now that are using DPA. Literally, they're looking at houses right now using DPA. Probably 85% of my first-time homebuyers are using DPA. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, it's very common where people think down payment assistance is used for first-time homebuyers, or they call it a first-time homebuyer program or a grant, or, the terminology is endless when it comes to this type of thing. It is a down payment assistance program. They're all the same. Now, there are some grants, obviously, that are different. If you're a teacher or you're a doctor or whatever, there are grants out there. But the down payment assistance program you can use if you have not purchased a home in 3 years. Now, again, that number can change depending on the program, but in 3 years. So let's say you bought a house and you sold it, 3 years go by, you can use DPA again to get into another house. And a lot of people don't understand it. Or a lot of people are like, hey, I'm embarrassed, I don't have enough money to buy a house. Like, stop that. One, swallow your pride on that. When you buy a house, you need to do the best thing that you can do for you and your family, even if that's buying a house or not buying a house, whatever it is. But if buying a house is in that deck of cards, there are ways to do it. That's all I'm trying to say. There are ways to do it. And it all starts with having a conversation with someone that knows what they're doing. So don't be afraid to start that conversation, to have that conversation. If an agent wants to sit down with you and talk, go talk to them. It will be worth it. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out for you and you leave that appointment with more information. That is the worst thing that can happen. So if you're thinking about it, or if you want to buy a house and you're not sure if you can, or if you have a lot of income and you don't have a ton of money saved, but you've been at the same job for years, or whatever the situation is, but you know that you want to buy a house in the near future, or even in the next couple of years, start the conversation. Literally got off the phone with 2 first-time homebuyers. So one was yesterday, another one was a few days ago. On the phone with him for an hour. First time I ever talked to him. He opted in on my website. Gave him a call. First time homebuyer. Had no idea. He's in a lease until the end of August, I believe. Now he's looking at breaking his lease because I told him almost something identical what I just told you. He had no idea that he could do it. Guy I talked to yesterday, he had no idea. He was planning on waiting a couple more years so he could save up more money, and he does have $15,000 saved up, which is amazing. He's 26 and he has $15,000 saved up. It's incredible for a 26-year-old. But I'm like, hey, my job, I'm gonna try to save you as much of that 15 grand as I possibly can. You're a first-time homebuyer. There are options. There are things we can do. Have the conversation. Don't be afraid of that conversation and just go do it. It's very doable. Okay. If you have any questions, my name is Jeremy Fuhst. I'm a local realtor in the Arizona area. I've been doing this for a long time. I own a team called Impact Real Estate. If you need me, please holler, comment, text me. I'm going to put my info in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, do all the things that realtors say, or do all the things that YouTubers say to get more attraction or whatever. I don't really understand, but I'm here to help. I'm here to bring value, and I hope you have an amazing day. We'll talk later. See ya.